The motion and the issues that Wakili Mwengi Mutuse has raised. And Mr. Speaker, I pick on a number of issues that I would want to draw the attention of this House to. Number one, Mwengi Mutuse says that all we need to do is to just believe the things he has tabled here are true. We cannot believe what he says is true. We have to cross-examine. We have to look at them properly. Mr. Speaker, I have gone through the evidence that he has provided on some of the issues. And Mr. Speaker, having 21 companies, according to Mwengi Mutuse, is an intention for the Deputy President to launder money, and therefore he should be impeached. Mr. Speaker, he did not say money has been laundered, but it is an intention. And he says it is enough for this House to just believe and therefore impeach. Mr. Speaker, I say no to that impeachment. Number two, Mwengi Mutuse, former Chief of Staff in Machakos County Government and the current Member of Parliament, is giving hearsay that he has heard. Mr. Speaker, he has said in his submission that they were officers who were coerced to write to change in the Ministry of Lands without tabling any evidence from the document that he has provided. Mr. Speaker, this House cannot go with hearsay. It is not possible for you to make a decision out of hearsay. Mr. Speaker, in his accusations, he says that the Deputy President is a Mount Kenya person, makes issues based on Mount Kenya. I am the Member of Parliament for Kajiado North. He has visited my constituency for a development tour. The executive, through the State Department for Education, Mr. Speaker, constructed classes, courtesy of his visit in Enoma Tasiani Girls Secondary School, a school that rescues girls, specifically from asylum. Mr. Speaker, the only girls' school that we have in my constituency, the Great Kajiado North. Mr. Speaker, Mwengi Mutuse did not mention such issues, but he says, according to him, the Deputy President coerced, did 1, 2, 3, and Mr. Speaker, he wants to say that we just need to believe. Mr. Speaker, impeaching the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya needs more evidence than what he has provided. I find this to be very shallow, and Mr. Speaker, maybe in the words of the Chief Justice, this is hot air, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have found very respectful submission from lawyers in this House,
yes, Mama Zamzam,
a majority of them.
Mheshimiwa, point of order number 87, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Mimi nataka nimjuze mbunge mwenzangu kuwa huyo alikuwa...
Naomba nisijuzwe.
Hapana,
naomba nisijuzwe.
She is on a point of order.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, nataka atoe statement of fact. Mheshimiwa Speaker, huyu mbunge aliyoko hapa, hata kama alikuwa akifanya kazi county hapa, amekuja ni mbunge na ametoa motion hapa. Mheshimiwa Speaker, na mimi nataka nimwelezee mbunge kuwa wasema kule wanaosema kufa abiria, kufa conductor, kufa dereva, huyu conductor ameweza kupickpocket maabiria wote, hawana chochote. Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwa hiyo aende tu nyumbani. Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I choose to stick to content.
Your time is
I choose to stick to matter.
Go on.
I choose to ignore the honorable member. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to submit to this House that, Mr. Speaker, when a whole deputy speaker of this assembly goes to a public function in Nandi and says that I will oversee the impeachment of the Deputy President, and comes to this House and is expected to vote, do you expect fairness?
Your time is up. Give him 1 minute. The Deputy Speaker spoke to that.
Thank you.
She has a vote unlike the Speaker.
Yeah, but Mr. Speaker, I just want to say
and she
that
will
I
not
find
preside on these proceedings.
Okay, because I respect you, Mr. Speaker, I will not engage on that matter. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to submit that Ngogoyo Onesmus Nguro, Member of Parliament for Kajiado North, says no to the impeachment of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Member for Taveta. Member for Taveta. The mic is there.
Can I have this one?
Is
this
it
one
working?
Is short.
There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For a start, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion by my learned colleague, Honorable Mutuse. Most of the things, Mr. Speaker, have been said, but allow me to say a few things. Number one, allow me to borrow on the then Council of White House during the Clinton administration. He said, impeachment is not a remedy for private wrongs. It's a method for removing someone whose continued presence in office would cause danger to the nation. Mr. Speaker, my position is the continued stay in office of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a threat to the nation of Kenya. I continue by saying this, Mr. Speaker. Between 1963, when we got independence, we had a vice president in the name of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. He never said, do not touch Luo Nyanza. During the President Moi's regime, we had George Saitoti. We had Musalia Mudavadi. He never said, do not touch Luya Nation. During the time of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, he never said do not touch Ukambani. But we have a deputy president, Mr. Speaker, who is obsessed with a certain region in this country. Mr. Speaker, secondly, Mr. Speaker, much has been said by my learned colleagues in this house. But I want to borrow something, Mr. Speaker. Article 145 of the Constitution provides for reasons for impeachment of a deputy president and the president. The case of during Sonko's impeachment, the Supreme Court laid certain guidelines and said that the question as to whether or not there is a violation of a constitution should be guided by certain principles. Number one, whether there is interference with the constitutional functions of the legislature and the judiciary. My submissions is that the utterances of the deputy president in relation to his cases in court is interference with the constitutional functions of the legislature and the judiciary. Another ground that has been given in determination as to whether or not there is a violation of the constitution is whether there is an abuse of the code of conduct. Mr. Speaker, my argument is the constant pronunciation by the deputy president that divides the country in terms of regions and tribe is an abuse of code of conduct and is a ground for impeachment. Another criteria given is the disregard and breach of fundamental rights of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. In Taveta, where I come from, there are two minority tribes. There is the Taveta tribe and there is the Pare tribe, with a minority tribes in Kenya. Article 56 of the Constitution says that the state should do everything within its means to ensure that marginalized tribes in Kenya are protected. Mr. Speaker, the pronouncement of the Deputy President about a certain region without considering the Tavetas of Taveta or the Pares of Taveta is a violation of fundamental rights and freedom as guaranteed by Article 56 and is a ground for impeachment. Very lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. Even in Taveta, there are Kikuyus. So if we constantly obsessed of Mount Kenya, who will speak for the Kikuyus who live in Tavetas? And that is why I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, because of the obsession of Mount Kenya, because of obsession of a certain region, Rigathi Gachagua must go. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to start with, there was a spat between the Pope and Napoleon in 1800. And this is what Napoleon asked the Pope. Pope, how many divisions do you have? Then the Pope replied, I have the Catholic Church. Honorable Speaker, yesterday during the interview, the Deputy President came up strongly to almost insinuate that this Parliament is a bunch of clowns. But this Parliament is guarded by so many things. But the very important instrument this Parliament wields is this thing called the Constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. Honorable Speaker, one of the reasons why the Deputy President must be impeached is the issue of national unity. He came on public stage to talk about one issue that eventually will discriminate the minorities. One man, one vote, one shilling. That is important in the way he says. But in a sense, the regions that are behind, that are discriminated, that are marginalized, will continue to be behind. Honorable Speaker, Article 56, A1, it talks about minority groups, why they must be in government, why they must be represented. Honorable Speaker, this country must move forward, and it must move as one nation, one people. We are of different nationalities. It is the Deputy President who stood in a public place to say that the problem of this country is the Somalis. The Somalis are part and parcel of this nation. They have done great contribution to this country, and they cannot be excluded for anything. Honorable Speaker, the second issue why the Deputy President must and he has to leave that office is on the matters of national security. He is privy to National Security Council meetings. He attends. Sometimes he could chair. For him to come out and divulge those information to public of need-to-know basis, then it means he has crossed the red line. Honorable Speaker, the third issue is Article 147. The Deputy President is the principal assistant to the President. And sometimes when the President is away, he's delegated to be the President. This happened in the 11th Parliament when Uhuru Kenyatta was attending ICC. And he wrote down that President Ruto will act on his behalf. It can happen even this time. If we have a president who is already determined to discriminate some parts of the country, then how do we trust him with power? Honorable Speaker, lastly, he is not assisting or supporting the president. Finance Bill 2024-25 was thrown out by Parliament, was thrown out by the people. Not that people didn't want it, not Parliament didn't want it, because he never supported it. He kept on campaigning against the finance bill. For those reasons, Honorable Speaker, I think the Deputy President must be impeached. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Farah Maalim.
Mr. Speaker, I want to weigh on this motion. Mr. Speaker, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel again. We have had Deputy President, before that we have had Vice Presidents. One, Andrei Gromyko of Russia, was one time asked why he has remained as the Deputy President for so long. And somebody else said, To be a deputy president, you have to have the capacity to sit on a block of ice with your pants down and make a green. A deputy president is no more than a personal assistant to the president. And that's how it's provided for in all constitutions, all over. I haven't seen one in which certain executive authority is given to the deputy president. In the US, if you remember very well, when John F. Kennedy was the president, there was a brother of John F. Kennedy who was Attorney General, who was called Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy literally did not think Lyndon B. Johnson was anything. But Lyndon B. Johnson kept tight, watched his cool, and later on he became the president of the US. In our own country, Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from our friends? In our own country here, I know many of you are not my age, you're younger than me, but a good number of you are also either my age or slightly older. When Moi was the vice president, which is the number 2, he was so humiliated, so much so that an SSP called Mungai slapped him in the State House in Nakuru when he was going to go and see his boss, who was the president. He did not complain publicly, he did not complain privately, he just went about his business. If you remember very well, when Kibaki was the deputy vice president of this country, which is number 2, he was dropped from being the number 2 and appointed a minister for health in the Moi government. He went to the president, thanked him for giving him the opportunity to be his vice for 11 years. Mr. Speaker, can you protect the House? It's too much sound.
Let's go on.
He thanked him for giving him an opportunity to serve as his assistant or as the vice president for 11 years and took up his job as the minister for health with a gusto and did a fantastic job as one of the best health ministers we have had in this country. Mr. Speaker, many people have been deputy presidents or vice presidents or number 2 in the executive here. I am glad I have been vindicated because about a year ago, I had said that Rigathi Gachagua is the worst number 2 in the history of this country. And I'm sure now I'm being vindicated.
Order, members. Order, member. Is that Masara? Yes. Maintain your silence. Carry on.
I said exactly 1 year ago, Rigathi Gachagua is the worst number 2 in the history of this country, whether a vice president or a deputy president. I'm glad I'm vindicated today. I remember when we had almost a collapse of the state and the nation in 2008, and we had the national accord on the floor of this House, and you were also a member of parliament. Raila Odinga was made the prime minister of this country. There was Raila Odinga, and there was also Kalonzo Musyoka, who was the vice president. Technically, in law, Raila was supposed to share 50-50 power with President Kibaki, but he was happy to say that he will support the president. And he supported the president until the term was over. I mean, that is what it's supposed to be. Here is somebody who literally, when this country is on the brink of certain serious problems, goes to Mombasa, and many of us believe that he was part of the so-called whatever, the riots that were there and the goons that attacked Parliament. And then he creates a parallel press conference in Mombasa in which he castigates the policies of his own boss. His own boss, including castigating people whose authority is driven by the appointment by the president and passed by this parliament, passed by this house. Mr. Speaker, this man is bad for this country. There is need, this man is a heartbeat away from the president. God forbid, if anything were to happen to our president, he is the president. He is a danger. There will be no Kenya.
1 minute.
If Gachagua has anything to do with, as far as I'm concerned, he did not even give me the benefit of saying that let's be careful with the Somalis, we don't like Somalis. He called us warrior. You know what I mean? He didn't give me even the respect or the courtesy. I could not say Mau Mau. I would say Kikuyus if I want to talk about Kikuyus, or look for any derogatory name. I will not look for that. He didn't give us even that respect of saying the Somalis of Kenya. He said warrior. They do not have any role. They are not shareholders in this government. And you know what? I come from a region, Wajir alone, Wajir County alone is bigger than Central Province, Mountain Region, Western Province, and Nyanza put together. In Nyanza, and you have not gone to Garissa, you have not gone to Mandera, you have not gone to Marsabit, where we share with our Cushitic brothers, you have not gone to Shiloh. He's talking about half the country, and he thinks we are from Somalia.